Welcome back, America. We're going to keep a close eye at the White House in case President Trump does come out. We'll have you covered with all the latest developments there. But first, we want to turn to one of our most trusted voices. When we have a question about the security of the world, foreign policy, we love to turn to the Vice President of the Lexington Institute and National Security Analyst, our good friend, Rebecca Grant. Rebecca, good to have you back on the show.
Glad to be here.
All right. Today was a pretty remarkable day. No matter which way this shakes out, seeing 8 or 9 world leaders all together in the White House, quickly following up on the meeting with Vladimir Putin last week. What did you see? What stood out from you in the comments that people made during the open period of the meeting?
Well, first, what a display of American leadership, including from this group that a few of them were skeptical about the return of President Trump, but now the U.S. and Europe are absolutely unified. 2 things stood out. One, Emmanuel Macron, all of Europe is concerned about containing Russia. And secondly, Germany's Chancellor Merz noting that there had better be a ceasefire coming after a Putin trilateral. So sure, we're going to give the peace process time to work, but soon it will be time to stop shooting as well. And then above all that, of course, these are the guarantors of Ukraine's security. These European countries have really stepped up, and this Article 5 idea is so interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating because obviously you can't say a NATO guarantee because that's an absolute no with Vladimir Putin. So they come up with this idea that the coalition of the willing, some of these European partners, but not the whole NATO coalition, will back up any future security guarantee. How does President Trump thread that needle? It seems like Vladimir Putin is open to that if Steve Witkoff's assessment is right.
Both Witkoff and Trump have indicated that that is the case. Secretary Rubio sort of sketched out the dilemma. It's a territory trade, and then it's about who Ukraine can ally with. So we know no NATO membership, but I think Italy's Giorgia Meloni was one of the first to raise Article 5. Of course, that's the Mutual Defense Pact. It's only been used once by NATO, and that was actually for the United States on 9/11 when NATO sent AWACS Raider planes to help us control the skies after that terrorist attack. Keir Starmer's in this as well. And basically, these are the major European powers. It's a huge chunk of the G7. It's the countries that have really leaned forward, like Britain has, to give offensive weapons to Ukraine to keep them going. And if they are willing to say that they will respond to any future Russian attack on Ukraine, then that is a huge piece of deterrence. A lot of that will take place, maybe not on the ground, but with air power, cyberspace, and intelligence cooperation too.
Pretty huge. And all the members today saying that the United States has agreed to be in some way involved in that. How does the president navigate that without getting to the natural concern? Boots on the ground. We always say we don't want boots on the ground anymore. But the U.S. can participate in this without having to put troops on the ground, right?
Right. And remember, President Zelensky has never requested American or NATO boots on the ground. There really are no boots on the ground. There are some attachés, maybe a couple other people. But first of all, it would have to be at the invitation of Zelensky after a settlement. But I'm telling you, really, where I think this is heading is with more of an air power guarantee. F-35s, which the U.S. has, Britain, Germany, the Finns as well, they can stop any tanks that might bust out from Donetsk in a couple of years if Putin tries something else. The F-35 fighter is also nuclear capable. And so by lacing that into Ukraine's security, which we already do for NATO's entire border, these countries alone are able to provide extra deterrence. And I think the questions are going to turn like, do you allow some peacekeepers? How do you retrograde Ukrainian and Russian forces away from a line of contact? A lot of intricate details to go. But NATO has the possibility, I'm sorry, not NATO, but this group can really extend a true and quite powerful deterrence to cover Ukraine for a long-term peace.
Yeah, that's got to be welcome to the Ukrainians as well. You could see President Zelensky seemed a little relieved today. He always has looked, stressed, but he seemed relieved today that something was on the table that could be meaningful to his country. I want to talk about the steps. I think you laid them out. All right, you got this, then there'll be a counter offer to Putin, then maybe a trilateral, then a ceasefire, and then a permanent peace deal. Is that sort of the hopscotch we have to do?
Right, it's happening right now. Trump said he would call Putin right away. And the expectation is an agreement to a date for a trilateral. Trump's not going to miss this. We need Trump there. A date for a summit. That's going to, I think, presume that a territory arrangement has been agreed and that security guarantees have been agreed as well. So, John, the problem is Russia continues to attack Ukraine, 4 Iskander missiles and 100 drones last night. So we have to see now if Putin is really ready to play ball. China always in the background there, but this is going to be up to seeing if Trump really has read Putin correctly in Alaska, and if, as Trump keeps saying, he thinks Vladimir wants to do something. So is it going to happen? If so, it'll be a trilateral, and I think pretty soon.
Yeah. That's what everyone will be watching for. You mentioned China, and that didn't get mentioned a lot today, but one of the legacies of the way Joe Biden dealt with this Russian incursion on Ukraine was basically allowing China and the and Russia to become so much more militarily integrated. Divorcing that is probably one of the big goals that President Trump has, even if he doesn't state it publicly.
And it is so much worse than it was. China, of course, buys 47% of Russia's oil, but they also send in the microelectronics, small drones, nitrocellulose, which you use to make explosives. They send all that into Russia to sustain the war economy. Russia buys actually a lot of its rare earth minerals from China. And this massive defense production is keeping Putin in power. The Russia-China military alliance, they did naval exercises last week. They're both building up their nuclear forces. This is the single biggest danger that America has ever faced. We know China is also trying to dominate in space. And I know Xi Jinping watched that meeting today. What an incredible display of power there with those European leaders. And that group of leaders, they're savvy about China. They know that China has made the situation so much worse. And yes, I would like to see Trump begin to find a way to start to separate that alliance. And if not, to contain Russia and contain China, because they are such a threat.
Yeah. And Vladimir Putin probably doesn't have any long-term interest to be under the thumb of China. He probably chafes about it personally. So it's an opening for the president. The other opening that I keep thinking comes out of this is maybe down the road some more nuclear disarmament talks. Do you think that that's a natural progression if they can pull off a peace deal here?
Well, that is coming right up because the New START agreement, our last significant arms control agreement, is up for renewal in February. So the way that this shakes out, Trump is not only dealing with Ukraine, he is reshaping the relationship with Russia and with China. So we need peace in Ukraine to be able to continue with those nuclear talks. If that agreement goes away, then Putin is free to put a whole lot more warheads on his submarines and with his aircraft and really change that balance around. Yeah.
And there's a lot in this for the American people. I think a lot of people think, well, this is only about what happens in Europe, but between the divorcing Russia and China and getting that next nuclear agreement, there's a lot in it for everyday Americans as well. Rebecca Grant, you always make this a lot more understandable when you come on. We always appreciate you. Thanks for joining us today.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I love your analysis all the time. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll shift focus from Eastern Europe to the Middle East. What's next for that region, specifically Iran? We don't want to miss that. We'll be right back right after these messages.